Hi guys, we continue our reading journey. I'm your inchangeable host, Andre, and today's story is A Cosmopolite in a Cafe. Right, let's get started. At midnight, the cafe was crowded. By some chance, the little table at which I sat had escaped by the eye of incomers, and two vacant chairs at it extended their arms with venal hospitality to the influx of patrons. And then a cosmopolite sat in one of them, and I was glad, for I held a theory that since Adam no true citizen of the world has existed, we hear of them and we see foreign labels on much luggage, but we find travelers instead of cosmopolites. I invoke your consideration of the scene, the marble-topped tables, the range of leather upholstered wall seats, the gay company, the ladies dressed in demi-state toilets, speaking in exquisite, visible chores of taste, economy, opulence, or art, these Sedalos, a larger Slavic garcons. The music wisely catering to all with its rates upon the composers. The melange of talk and laughter, and if you will, the Wurzburger in the tail glass cones that bend to your lips as the ripe cherry sways on its branch to the break of Robert J. I was told by a sculptor from Ma Mauch Chunk that the scene was truly Parisine. Parisine. Okay. My cosmopolite was named E. Rushmore Coglon, and he will be heard from next summer at Coney Island. He is he is to establish a new attraction there, he informed me, offering kindly diversion. And then his conversation ran along parallels of latitude and longitude. He took the great round world he took the great round world in his hand, so to speak, familiarly, contemptuously, and it seemed no larger than the seed of a march in a cherry in a table horte grapefruit. He spoke disrespectfully of the equator. He skipped from continent to continent. He derided the zones. He mopped up the seas with his napkin. With a wave of his hand, he would speak of a certain bazaar in Hyder- Hyderabad. With he would have you on skis in Lapland. Zip. Now you rode the breakers with the Kansas and Kealakiki. Kealakiki. Kealak Keal Kealikiki. Preston. He dragged you through an Arkansas post-oak swamp, let you drive for a moment on the alkali plants of his Idaho ranch, then whirled you into the society of Venice archdukes, and then he would be telling you if of a cold he acquired in the Chicago lake breeze and how old Escamilla cried court it in Buenos Aires with with a hot infusion of the chupchula wheat. You you would have addressed the letter to E. Rushmore Colgan, asked the Earth, solar system, the universe, and have mailed it, feeling confident that would be delivered to him. I was sure that I had at last found the one true cosmopolite since Adam, and I listened to his worldwide discourse, fearful lest I should discover in the local note of the mere globe trotter. trotter. But his opinions never fluttered or drooped. He was an impartial took cities, countries, and continents, and the winds as the winds or gravitation. And as E. Rushmore Coghlan prattled of the little planet, I thought with glee of great almost cosmopolite who wrote for the whole world and dedicated himself to Bombay. In a poem he has to say that there is pride and rivalry rivalry between the cities of the earth, and that the men that breed from them they traffic up and down, but cling to their cities them as a child of the mother's gone, as a child to the mother's gone. And whenever they walk by roaring streets unknown, they remember their native city most faithful, foolish, fond, making her mere breathed name their bond upon their bond. And my glee was aroused because I had caught Mr. Kipling napping. Here I, here I had found a man not made from dust, and who had no narrow boths of birthplace or country. One who, if he bragged at all, would brag of his whole round globe against the Martians and the inhabitants of the moon. Expression on this subject was precip- precipitated, precip- precipitated from E. Rushmore Coglan by the third corner of our table. While Cogan was describing to me the topology along the Siberian Railway, the orchestra glided into a medley. The concluding air was Dixie, and as the exhilarating notes trembled forth, they were almost overpowered by a great clapping of hands from almost every table. It is worth a paragraph to say that this remarkable scene can be witnessed, witnessed, witnessed every evening in numerous cafes in the city of New York. Tons of a brew, tons of brew have been consumed over theories to account for it. Some have conjectured hastily that all Southerns in town hide themselves to cafes at nightfall. This applause for the rebel air in the northern city does puzzle a little, but it's not insol- insolvable. The war with Spain many years, generous mint and watermelon crops, a few Longshore winners at the New Orleans racetrack, and the brilliant bun- banquets given by the Indiana and Kansas cities who compose the North Carolina Society have made the South rather a fad in Manhattan. Your manicure will lip softly. That younger lift forefinger reminds her so much of a gentleman's enrichment. Oh, certainly. But many a lady has to work now. The war, you know. When Dixie was being played, a dark-haired young man sprang up from somewhere with a Mosby guerrilla, guerrilla yell and waved frantically his soft-brimmed hat. Then he strayed through the smoke, dropped into the vacant chair at our table, and pulled out cigarettes. The evening was at the period when reserve is thought. One of us mentioned three Wesburgers, Wurzburgers to the waiter. The dark-haired young man acknowledged his inclusion in the order by a smile and a nod. I hastened to ask him a question because I wanted to try out a theory I had. Would you mind telling me, I began, what whether you're from the first of E. Rushmore Coghlan benched the table, and I was jarred into silence. Excuse me, said he, but that's a question I never liked to hear asked. What does it matter where a man is from? Is it far is it far to judge a man by his post office address? Why I've seen Kentuckians who hated whiskey, Virginians who weren't descended from Pocahontas, Indians who hadn't written a novel, Mexican who didn't wear velvet trousers with silver dollars sewed along the seams, funny Englishmen, spendthrift Yankees, cold-blooded Southerns, narrow-minded Westerners, and New Yorkers who were too busy to stop for an hour on the street to watch a one-armed grocer's clerk do up cranberries in paper bags. Let a man be a man, and don't handicap him with the label of any section. Pardon me, I said, but my curiosity was not altogether alt, altogether an idle one. I know the South, and when the band plays Dixie, I like to observe. I had formed the belief that the man who applauds the air with special violence and sensible sectional loyalty is invariably a native of either Secaucus NG or the district between Murray Hill, Lychem, Lu, Lysem, and the Harlem River, this city. I was about to put my opinion to the test by inquiring of this gentleman when you interrupted with your own larger theory, I must confess. And now the dark-handed young man spoke to me, and it became evident that his mind also moved along Owen's set of grooves. I should like to be a periwinkle, said he mysteriously, on the top of the valley, a thing too rallo. That was clearly too obscure, so turned again to Coghlan. So I turned again to Coghlan. I've been around the world 12 times, said he. I know a I know an Esquimau in Upper Navik who sends to Stinan City for his nectis, and I saw a god herder in Uruguay who won a prize in a Battle Creek breakfast food puzzle competition. I pay rent on a room in Cairo, Egypt, and another in Yokohama all the year round. I've got slippers waiting for me in a tea house in Shanghai, and I don't have to tell them how to cook my eggs in Rio de Janeiro or Seattle. It's a mighty little old world. What's the use of bragging about being from the north or the south or the old manor house in the Dale or Euclid Avenue, Cleveland, or Pikes Peak, or Fairfax Country, or Holigans Flats, or any place. It be it'll be a better world when we quiet being fools about mildew, some mal mildew down on 10 acres of swampland just because we happen to be born there. You seem to be a genuine cosmopolite, I said admiringly. Ad- admire, admiringly. But it also seemed that you would decry patriotism. A relic of the Stone Age, declared Coghlan warmly. We're all brothers. Chinamen, Englishmen, Zulus, Patagonians, and the people in the bend of the Cow River. Someday all this plenty pride in one cities or state or section of or country will be wiped out, and we'll all be citizens of the world as we all ought to be. But while you're wandering in foreign lands, I persist to note your thoughts revert to some spot, some dear aunt, nary a spot, interrupted E.R. Coghlan flippantly. The terrestrial globular planetary hunk of matter, slightly flattened at the poles and known as the Earth, is my adobe abode. I've met a good many object-bound citizens of the country abroad. I've seen men from Chicago sit in gondola in Venice, on a moonlight night and brag about their drainage drainage canal. I've seen in South in South I've seen a Southerner on being introduced to the King of England hand hand that monarch without batting his eyes the information that his grand aunt on his mother's side was related by marriage to the Perkins of Charleston. I knew a New Yorker who was kidnapped for ransom by some Afghanistan bandits. His people sent over the money and came back to Kabul with the agent. Afghanistan, the native said to him through an entrepreneur. Well, not so slow, do you think? Oh, I don't know, says he. And he begins to tell them about a cab driver at 6th Avenue and Broadway. Those ideas don't suit me. I don't tie down to anything that isn't 80,000 miles in the diameter. Just put me down as E. Rushmore Coghlan, citizen of the terrestrial sphere. My cosmopolite made a large a die and left me, for he thought that he saw someone through the chatter and smoke whom he knew. So I was left with the would-be Periwinkle, who was reduced to Wurzburger without further ability to voice his aspirations to perch melodious upon the summit of a valley. I sat reflecting upon my evident cosmopolite and wonder, wondering how the poet had managed to miss him. He was my discovery, and I believe in him. And I believe in him. How was it? The men that breed from them, the men that breed from them, they traffic up and down, but cling to their citizen as a child to the mother's gown. Not so E. Rushmore Coghlan with a horror world of his. My meditations were interrupted by tremendous noise and conflict in another part in the cafe of the cafe. I saw above the heads the seated patrons E. Rushmore Coghlan and a stranger to me engaged a terrific battle. They fought between the tables like titans, and glasses crashed, and men caught his heads up and were knocking down, and the brunette screamed, and the blondie began to sing, teasing. My my cosmopolite was sustaining the pride and reputation of the earth when the waiters closed in of in on both components with their famous flying wedge formation and poured them outside, still resisting. I called McCarthy, one of the French garcons, and asked him the cause of the conflict. The man with a red tie, that was my cosmopolite, said I got hot on account of things said about the bum sidewalks and water supply of the place he come from by the other guy. Why, said I, bewildered, that man is a citizen of the world, a cosmopolite. He originally from mm, Mattawamkeag, Maine, he said, continued McCarthy, and he wouldn't stand for no knocking the palace, the place. It was a little bit difficult, but I'm done. Okay, see you tomorrow. Thanks.